So that's what we're going, that's what we should, we're gonna discuss that. Uh, we're gonna see, it's interesting, if you look at arts, the art scroll, New Svardi Siddha, Igdus HaMizrach Siddha, they don't bring these things down in the Siddha. If you look at the Gemara Yosef, Nun Testament Aleph, 59, if you look at the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yalkut Yosef, he doesn't have it. But if you look at the Yalkut Yosef, the full version Yalkut Yosef, meaning they have, let's say they have over here Yalkut Yosef, all the Sfarim that Yalkut Yosef wrote. So here on this Simuk Reish Chaf Hey, he does have, obviously he's going according to the Shulchan Aruch, but what we're going to see, and maybe we'll see, is that these brachot, he takes the opinion, the Yalkut Yosef, and in a lot of these issues, there is many different opinions, and he goes a lot with the Safek Brachot L'Hakel. What do I mean? I mean the following. Maybe we already say it a little bit. Maybe we have to repeat it for some people. Maybe we'll repeat it again. Number one, the instance to say these brachot, let's say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam b'shana habriot, when you see an elephant, right? Elephant, when you see a monkey, right? So in Shulchan Aruch, he brings an opinion that said, the Shulchan Aruch himself says, when does it apply that if you see a monkey or you see an elephant, that you have to say this bracha, Baruch Mashana Habriot? So the Shulchan Aruch says, he says, so Shulchan Aruch says a few things. Let's go back to certain people. If certain people have certain deficiencies, right? You see a person whose hands are amputated or his feet are amputated, that there's a bracha, that you say a bracha. So the Shulchan Aruch says you only say the bracha, Mechaber, the Shulchan Aruch, the Rabbi Yosef Kar, only the first time you see such a thing. Only the first time you see a midget, a dwarf, for the first time, or you see a person that's, or you see the elephant for the first time, the monkey for the first time. That's when you say, because it makes such an impression on you. So you say the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam b'shana habriot. But he also says, and now, then he says, some say, there's opinions that say, let's say when you see a person's feet are amputated, Achmana litzlan, or hands are amputated, it's only if somebody that you feel very bad, if you're very distressed by seeing it. It causes you a lot of pain by seeing such a thing. But if you're not pained by it, right, you see it, but it doesn't really bother you so much. Now, every time a person sees such a phenomenon, they should feel terrible that they see. You want to send to the group that we're on, a person should feel very distressed if they see such a thing. But if a person doesn't feel so distressed, doesn't really bother them. If you see somebody in cold weather lying on the floor, homeless lying on the floor, it should bother you. You should call 911. It's 40 degrees outside. Pick up the guy. It's an emergency. The guy's going to freeze. But if you people that doesn't bother, they just walk by as if nothing's happening. They feel it's wrong. So if it bothers you, that's only when you should say it on these type of on the people that have the problems, right? The people that have, let's say, the blind person, or the guy that's full of boils, or certain other things that we said that are bad things that happen, misfortunes for people. So now this opinion that says only if it really bothers you, that's the opinion of, that's how some say. You see, some make a difference when the bracha is only Dayana Emet. That's when, if the bracha is Dayana Emet, bothers you, that's when you say the bracha. But if it's not the bracha, it's not dayan emet, the bracha is mishana briot, then you would, it doesn't need to bother you. But the Ravadi Yosef goes with the opinion, Morning Morris, that it needs to bother you in order for you to say the bracha on certain people that have certain problems, they were born with certain issues. But if it doesn't bother you, doesn't it stress you so much? You don't say the bracha. If you would say the bracha, if it bothers, it has to bother you, and also has, let's say, it has to be. Now, also, there's a question: does it have to be a Jew has this issue? So the Shulchan Aruch says only on a Jew that it bothers you, you say the bracha, but if it's a non-Jew that it happens to, he says you wouldn't say the bracha. The bracha, so it has to be. You see, if the misfortune happens to a Jew, it bothers you. And also, there's another condition that it's the first. It only happened once, according to the Machaber Rabbi Yosef Cairo. The first time you saw it. So now, in today's day and age, people, when they're young, when they went to a circus, they saw something or they saw certain people, and so if it already made the impression on them, you saw these people, or you saw the elephant, or you saw the monkey, so therefore you will not, you already were exposed to it. So it's nothing so special when you see it the next time. And what about if you saw it through a picture? You were watching a kosher movie, right? If there is such a thing called a kosher movie, right? Guy was watching a kosher movie, and in the kosher movie, he saw these things. He saw these, whether it's an elephant or whether it was a monkey, or whether he saw people with. So now, if he sees it again, he's not really moved by it. Now, you live in New York, you've seen everything, right? But I'm saying with people, so therefore you would not need to make a bracha on these things. So, but you already were exposed to it. So therefore, it's very rare that a person will have to make the bracha on these things. But let's say let's say in Europe, there were rabbis there were people that would go to the zoo to go ahead and say the bracha, because they never saw an elephant. They never saw a monkey. So come back 100 years ago, and they bring down that the Munkach visited the zoo in Berlin. The zoo came to Berlin, visited the zoo in Berlin, and he recited the bracha on the elephant and the monkey. Brachata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, mishana habriot. So also they say that the Stipler took his children to the zoo to teach them the brachot on these things. So yes, it says in the biographical account of the Stipler, he once took his children to the zoo in Ramat Gan, in the Holy Land, and taught them to recite the blessing of Mishan HaBriot. So I'll tell you, his children did not go to movies. They never saw an elephant. They never watched the television. Therefore, there was no question that this is the first time they ever saw such a thing. Whoa, what's going on over here? We never saw it. They were really moved. They said the bracha of Mishan. Again, Ashkenazim have different. It's much easier for the Ashkenazim to say it. They don't have all. They have certain. They're not as strict regarding the bracha. They don't have to meet certain things that the Sfardim would require. But here we have a more Sephardic crowd, so we're focusing on the Sfardim. So therefore, again, for a Sephardi to say these brachot, it has to be, if it's certain animals that like the Gemara speaks about, the elephant, monkey, it has to be the first time, and the first time only. The first time you very good. Even if you didn't say the bracha the first time you saw it, but once you were exposed to it, so now it's nothing any special for you now. So you're at 5 years old, at 6 years old, you didn't say you could have said the bracha at 5 and 6 the first time, and then if you didn't see it on the television beforehand. But number one, if the first time you saw it, you didn't say the bracha, but you saw it, so now you're used to it. The whole bracha is when you're moved, but you see something the way something the way they're going is something unusual for Hashem has created, and it makes a very big impression on you. Similar to the idea you buy a new suit, right? You fix the suit, you tailor the suit. The first time you wear it, you say Shechianu, right? Correct, Morris? But now, let's say you've been wearing the suit for about a few weeks already, and you don't feel the simcha of the suit anymore, the freshness of the suit, because you're already used to it already. So then you would not say the Shechianu anymore. You lost the Shechianu, because as long as when it's fresh, let's say you didn't say the Shechianu the first day you have the suit. You can still say it. We would say Ashkenaz would say Shechianu the second day because it's still new. In fact, you got a new watch, expensive watch, and the first day you wore it, you didn't say Shechianu. But if it's still fresh, it's still new. You still feel the great simcha. You say Shechianu. So that's a similar idea over here. Once you were exposed to it, you're used to it. Now you see it again. Therefore, they will not say.
Like, let's say somebody's a scientist or a doctor or something with rocks or something that's never been done before. So they go to Mars for the first time. What else things like that?
Right. So there's no. I mean, we find certain brachot on beautiful items. We find beautiful, and I mean, beautiful people. There's certain things. But we have to. We can't. It's something that did not exist before to create a new. We can't create a new bracha. The question is, will it fit into a bracha that's already existing? So we have to analyze to see if any of those things. First, I want to say hello to everybody, Moshe Rosenbaum, Yosef, and everybody else that's on the screen. And again, today we're dedicating today's learning in honor of Yosef's son, who came by mitzvah today. Today's our mitzvah of Yosef's son. And everybody here says, Mabruk to you, Yosef, and to your son. And
thank you, Rabbi.
Learning is an honor that he should always fill his life with Torah study. So that answers a lot of why today, you see, like he says, if someone has never seen live monkey or elephant, but has seen films of such animals, he will no longer be so utterly fascinated by seeing a live one. And therefore, it seems that in such a case, he should say the blessing without the name of Hashem. Instead of saying, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam mishan habriot, to say Baruch mishan habriot. Say, that's what you should say. And I think that in a lot of these situations, because a lot of times you will not meet the criteria that's necessary. So say to you, Baruch Mishan Habriot. It's not a question of saying Hashem's name in vain. Certain things that generally to be considered a real bracha, you have to say Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. The Gemara says we had a Gemara brachot earlier. If you didn't say Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, it's not really a bracha, but it's definitely something. It's definitely some recognition, appreciation, recognizing this is Hashem created this type of person. So that's a little bit about why these brachot are not commonly said, especially to people who've been exposed to monkeys and elephants, and people who've been exposed to all different types of people they've seen. And the first time they saw these people, they never said the bracha. And also a lot of people are exposed to people that they're not distressed. It doesn't bother them so much. We're living in a world that people don't feel enough people's pain. You see someone whose hands are amputated or feet amputated should really hurt, bother, be distressed. I'm sorry to say it's possible that we're living in a time period that people are not as feeling it as much. And also we said that according to Sephardi opinion, specifically if it's a Jewish, if one of your brothers, sisters, a Jewish person that has it, so he has to be also Jewish in order, and also you have to feel distressed, and also has to be your first time that you saw such a thing. So to meet all the criteria is a little bit, maybe that's why it's not so common to find those brachos on these types of people. Okay? Okay, that's also a point. Okay.
something, you're gonna have
Right, because it's not such a difficult bracha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Mishana habriot. You know, he's diversified the creations that he has made.
That's to know how you went, so that you know, how you go to the zoo. So that you know, I guess, you want to get it.
Right. But like we said, even at the zoo today, what did you say? Say it again about. Oh, very good. We go to the zoo to see him, Bez Hashem. But even if we go to the zoo, I think everybody here has been exposed to elephants and monkeys before, and therefore we will not be saying the bracha of Mishana Habriot on that animal. Okay, now on Nun Vav and Aleph, we're going to get now to Nun Test of an Aleph, 59a, Val Hazva'ot. Okay, we're in the last stretch here of the Masechta. Now today we're going to be focusing on earthquakes, because these are another phenomenon, and this is a bracha that yes is more commonly said by everybody, Sephardim and Ashkenazim. If a person experiences an earthquake, and the bracha has to be said while the earthquake is happening, meaning or within a second, Shalom Aleichem, within a second after the earthquake. But if you delay, you don't say the bracha right, then you lost it. You can't say, just like similarly when you hear thunder, when you see lightning, the bracha has to be said immediately. Not late, if the time has elapsed, you lost the bracha. So that's the same thing with the earthquake. And interesting to note, not only should you say the bracha, there's also, some people say you should say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Obviously, they're talking about a case where there's a concern that the person might die in the earthquake. So the last thing that should be on his lips should be Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. What did you say? I mean, it's a special thing that a person leaves this world. If a person leaves this world with Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad on his lips, that's before a person dies, they say the Shema. It's a very special thing, and therefore that's brought down to say the Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, by if there's an earthquake happening. A lot of people, when a plane is going, Chas v'shalom, plane is going down, or they say something that a plane might be going down. We don't know if it's going down or not going down. So a lot of the people will be saying the Shema Yisrael, because it's also maybe the fact that a person accepts upon himself Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's a big merit for the person, that when if Chas v'shalom the plane goes down, that he left this world in such a holy way, with a holy mindset, that will be. That's what it says. The minhag is to say during an earthquake the Shema Yisrael. This is in the Yalkut Yosef, the Siman 227. Because maybe Chas v'shalom, it's the time of his death, and his neshama will leave with the word Echad. We're saying Hashem is one, and some say you should also say. Some also say Baruch Hashem Baruch Salam Ved. After Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol modecha. Also, some say at the time of the Yavitz, he writes in the Yalkut Yosef that at the time of the earthquake, a person should say the pasuk of Karazel Zev Yamak Kadosh 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 Hashem Tzvakos Melchos Kavodo. To say it 3 times, and that hopefully will help put the earthquake to rest, that the earthquake won't have such meaning. To say, you could say that what's the idea of an earthquake? An earthquake is to go ahead and wake up the people. One idea is to show the world Hashem's power, right? So if you go ahead and you recognize Hashem's power by saying Kadosh Kadosh Hashem Tzvakot Melocha La'aretz Kavodo, that the whole world is filled with His honor. So hopefully we have that. Therefore, the result will be that merit. Hopefully, the earthquake will stop. That's good about an earthquake. Today, let's see what we're focusing on today. That's what we're focusing on today. We're about 8 Nun Tesam and Aleph, about 10 lines from the top. We got the earthquake. The Mishnah says that if you experience an earthquake, you say a bracha. Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech olam, shekocho uvurato malei olam. That's the bracha on earthquake. My zvo. So the Gemara wants to know, what are zvoot? So the Gemara says, zvoot, Amar of Katina is a guha. It's guha. Guha is an earthquake. Of Katina, havika'azav orcha. What has the Gemara? Nathan, you got the Gemara about 10 lines from the top? Maris, everyone, Akiva, Daniel, you have it? We are on Nun Testament Aleph, 59a. Rav Katina havika'azel be'urcha. Rav Katina was traveling on a road. Himata pischa de be'uva tamyu. When he passed by the door of the house that of a person who used to do like witchcraft. What he used to do, there's something called Ov and Yidoni that the Torah talks about. Good morning. Good morning. Look at. You have to look. He's upstairs. Upstairs. Lamala. I'm not sure. You'll see him. Good morning. And the Ov, they would take a bone from a dead person, and they would use this bone to bring up. To go to a person, let's say to a cemetery or something, and to bring up the spirit, the neshama of the person who passed away. And they had an ability, some sort of Hashem gave to this world certain magic, certain abilities. And the Torah says you're not allowed to do these things. Torah does not want you to do these things, to go to the people that died and to bring their spirit, bring their neshama up and to start talking to them. And this guy was a guy who did it. He was a guy who did such terrible things. He didn't follow the Torah. Issa d'oraita. Sukkim in the Torah talks about not doing these type of things. So when he reached the house of this guy, Gonach Guha, the earth quaked. Now I would say that the reason why, good morning, Shalom Aleichem, good to see you. The reason why the earth quaked, Baruch haba. The reason why the earth quaked was because most probably this guy's house. This guy is bad. It's bad news. Because he's bad news, when the rabbi passed by the guy's house, that moment the earth quaked. Okay, but the rabbi said when he was passing by, Katina said, "Ama miyada uva tamya haigua mahu." The guy who's this bone, who does this sorcery and witchcraft with the bones of dead people, do you know how an earthquake comes to this? How does God make an earthquake? So Rami Lekola, what you want to know, what brings about this earthquake? So Rami Lekola, so the guy who did the sorcery screamed out, Katina, Katina. So first of all, he refers to the rabbi not a respectful way. Instead of calling him Rabbi Rav Katina, he calls him Katina, Katina. Katina, Katina. Amai lo yadana. Why shouldn't I know? When God remembers his children. Why is God bringing an earthquake? Because he sees the Jewish community is having trouble. Jewish people are being prosecuted. Jewish people are going through difficult times in the exile. So what happens? God is very upset. And it's a sign to the community that God is with us. So even though we might be in exile, but God is saying, you should know it hurts me, bothers me that you guys are going like someone. Parents seeing children going through difficult times, Rahman al-Islam. So who does it hurt? Who does it hurt a lot? The parents. They see the child is not making it well, or whatever it is, having great difficulties. So that's what Hashem is showing and expressing to the Jewish community. It's an amazing concept that Hashem is expressing to the Jewish community about how he feels that bothers him. But obviously, the community is not deserving to be redeemed yet. They haven't shaped up in yet their act, so that's why they're still in the exile. But that's one of the reasons why God is bringing this earthquake. So what does Hashem do? Morid, when he remembers his children, they're living among the non-Jewish world. Morid shtei dema'ot liyam hagadol. Hashem sheds 2 tears to the great Mediterranean Sea, or wherever sea you refer to as the Yam HaGadol, one of the great oceans. Now, God does not have tears. There's no tears of God. There's no eyes of God. But it's just like a mashal, something that we could try to relate to, that we could try to, it's as if God goes ahead, as if God creates the phenomenon of, as if there was tears going to the great sea, v'kolo nishma misofa olam ad sofo. And the sound that when the tears go into the great sea is heard from one end of the earth to the other end. V'hainu guha, and that's what we that's what we call it. That's the earthquake. Now again, it's not to be a God that we said it's no tears of God, but God creates a situation as if there was like tears coming from God, going onto the ocean, creating this thing. Amar Rav Katina. So Rav Katina says to the guy, Uva Tamya Kadivhu Umile Kadim. This guy, this sorcerer, this guy who does with the bones, he's a fraud. His words are false. It's not true what the guy is saying. Ihachi guha miboyale. So then, if it's because of 2 tears that God creates a phenomenon as if there was like tears coming from heaven, 2 tears come from heaven, so then there should have been 2 earthquakes. Every time there's an earthquake, there should be 2 earthquakes simultaneously, not one earthquake after the other. Not that it's 1 earthquake. Now, and the Gemara is going to explain, Velohi. Really, what Rav Katina was saying to show that the guy is a fraud, what he said is not a good argument to disprove that guy, because gua of it. For a fact, there are 2 earthquakes that are coming simultaneously. But but people don't realize it. Maybe they're like swallowed one within the other. Why didn't Rav Katina admit to this sorcerer about the 2 earthquakes? There's coffee downstairs. You have to answer Haron. Everything Haron. Talk to Haron. He would know. Haron. So the Gemara says, he didn't want people to follow the sorcerer. He didn't want the people to be impressed with the guy who does the sorcery, the guy who does the magic with the bones. So therefore, he said he's a fraud. He said that whatever he said is not true by saying a certain argument, even though the argument that the rabbi said was not a real proper offensive statement to disprove. But why did he make it appear as if he was disproving the other guy? Because they was concerned that the whole world, an amazing idea, the Gemara says, that the whole community will be enthralled or impressed with this guy, with the sorcerer. And if they'll be impressed with him, they're going to want to follow him. But if you say he's a fraud, he doesn't know what he's talking about, so the same way that he doesn't know what he's talking about, the same way he's not honest, he's a fraud about he's not on target regarding how the earthquake works, so too, you should not be involved and try to follow him with the sorcery and the witchcraft that he does. And you got to point out when people are fraud, and these people have the ability to take people with them. You have to be able to show that they're not real. People should stay away from these people. Yes. That's what the sorcerer guy, the guy who would use bones, he would use bones to bring up the spirit, the neshama of a person. If the person, he was the one who said, that's what it's. The Torah is talking about Jewish people. Shouldn't be this sorcerers. Torah does not want, the Torah forbids us to be involved with magic, these type of magics and these type of things with people that passed away, bringing up their neshama, using bones and getting them to talk or certain things. There's a whole thing. It's a whole, the witches didn't come from nothing. We have these all these things, we grew up on knowing about a witch. There's such a thing. There is such a thing as a witch. There's such a thing that the witches have, the morning that God placed in the world these abilities. And therefore he wanted to show that people should not follow him. So therefore he said that the guys, but really in truth, the Gemara says maybe that could be that it's the sign of Hashem. It's as if countermand, as if, so to speak, it's like Hashem is shedding some tears on the situation of the Jewish community. If Katina himself says, Sofe Kapav, the earthquake is countermount, it's like Hashem smacking his hands together in a sign of that like when a person is upset and he's upset, it goes like this, like whatever, he puts his hands together, and that is the sign, that is like what Hashem is doing when he brings the earthquake. It's like that. He makes the situation as if it was like there was a clapping of hands. It's like I will pound my hands one upon one hand on the other, and then now I'm gonna, okay, I got it out, so to speak. It's like Hashem showing his upset the situation, and that's and then as a result of that, that's how Hashem creates that situation, and therefore that's how the earthquake comes. Rav Nosson says, how does the earthquake come? Anochem esaneach. It's as if Hashem makes a sigh, as if Hashem is like, a person's upset, feels distressed about something. So it's like Hashem, it's like we should envision an earthquake comes. It's similar to the concept of Hashem showing his sigh and feeling bad and you ever had an expression, I don't know if Sfardim say but the Ashkenazim have more, they say that, even when you move, it's a sign, when you enter Brooklyn, it says, you know that sign? You've seen that sign? It says, when you're entering Brooklyn. It's such a sign. And New York City, paid by New York City. Yeah. That's, it says, vey. It's more of a Yiddish, but like whoa, so that it's like we have to picture like Hashem is like, that's Hashem's feeling bad for the situation, and that creates an earthquake. Again, like we said, these are not to be taken literally, but it's just, these are metaphorical things that we could look at, but just to get a picture of what's going on in heaven. Rabbanan, and the last thing we'll say, Rabbanan Amri, Rabbanan says, Boit Berakiyat. It's as if Hashem is kicking at the sky. Of course, Hashem doesn't kick. He doesn't. It's not feet. There's no physical. But that's what's like happening. That's how the earthquake comes. It's tantamount that Hashem is kicking at the sky. Shenema hidad kadorchim yaneh al kol yoshvei oretz. And Rav Yaakov Oma duchik es raglav tachas kisei kavod. It's as if Hashem is pressing his feet down by the chair, upstairs in the heavenly throne. Now again, there's no chair, there's no feet, but it's like that. It's like that type of thing happening. Hashem Hashemayim kisi v'oretz hadom raglai, and it's as if Hashem is stepping and showing his distress of the difficulty of the Jewish people in exile. We should always be zocher that we should get out of the exile right away. Thank everybody for joining. Have a great day, everybody. All the best. Thank you. What a Gemara, everybody. Nathan, fascinating or not? You know who told me? Somebody told me how he was that Nathan, told me Charles Darwish. He said you were talking about dreams. He said, it's
Oh,
unbelievable. He was so impressed
yeah,
at the way you were, talking. I'm just telling you, he was blown away. You hear me, Nathan? Keep it up. People, and it made a great impression on him. Thank you.